Hi, today we are going to read Beverly Cleary's Dear Mr. Henshaw, pages 89 to 98. Dear Mr. Henshaw, I haven't written to you for a long time because I know you are busy, but I need help with the story I am trying to write for the Young Writers Yearbook. I got started, but I don't know how to finish it. The story is about a man 10 feet tall who drives a big truck, the kind my dad drives. The man is made of wax, and every time he crosses the desert, he melts a little. He makes so many trips and melts so much he finally can't handle the gears or reach the brakes. That is as far as I can get. What should I do now? The boys in my class who are writing about monsters just bring in a new monster on the last page to finish off the villains with a laser. That kind of ending doesn't seem right to me. I don't know why. Please help. Just a postcard will do. Hopefully, Lee Botts. P.S. Until I started trying to write a story, I wrote in my diary almost every day. February 28th. Dear Mr. Henshaw, thank you for answering my letter. I was surprised that you had trouble writing stories when you were my age. I think you are right. Maybe I am not ready to write a story. I understand what you mean. A character in a story should solve a problem or change in some way. I can see that a wax man who melts until he's a puddle wouldn't be there to solve anything, and melting isn't the sort of change you mean. I suppose somebody could turn up on the last page and make candles out of him. That would change him all right, but that is not the ending I want. I asked Miss Martinez if I had to write a story for young writers, and she said I could write a poem or a description. Your grateful friend, Lee. P.S. I bought a copy of Ways to Amuse a Dog at a garage sale. I hope you don't mind. From the Diary of Lee Botts, Volume 2, Thursday, March 1st. I am getting behind in this diary for several reasons, including working on my story and writing to Mr. Henshaw. Really, not just pretend. I also had to buy a new notebook because I had filled up the first one. The same day I bought a beat-up black lunchbox in the thrift shop down the street and started carrying my lunch in it. The kids were surprised, but nobody made fun of me because a black lunchbox isn't the same as one of those square boxes covered with cartoon characters that first and second graders carry. A couple of boys asked if it was my dad's. I just grinned. And I said, "Where do you think I got it?" The next day, my little slices of salami rolled around cream cheese were gone. I expected that. But I'll get that thief yet. I'll make him really sorry he ate all the best things out of my lunch. Next, I went to the library for books on batteries. I took out a couple of easy books on electricity, really easy, because I have never given much thought to batteries. About all I know is that when you want to use a flashlight, the battery is usually dead. I finally gave up on my story about the 10-foot wax man, which is really pretty dumb. I thought I would write a poem about butterflies for young writers because a poem can be short, but it is hard to think about butterflies and burglar alarms at the same time. So I studied electricity books instead. The books didn't have directions for an alarm in a lunchbox, but I learned enough about batteries and switches and insulated wires, so I think I can figure it out myself. Back to the poem tonight. The only rhyme I can think of for butterfly is flutterby. I can think up rhymes like trees and breeze, which are pretty boring, and then I think of wheeze and sneeze. A poem about butterflies wheezing and sneezing seems silly, and anyway, a couple of girls are already writing poems about monarch butterflies that flutter by. Sometimes I start a letter to Dad, thanking him for the $20, but I can't finish that either. I don't know why. Saturday, March 3rd. Today I took my lunchbox and Dad's $20 to the hardware store and looked around. I found an ordinary light switch, a little battery, and a cheap doorbell. While I was looking around for the right kind of insulated wire, a man who had been watching me — boys my age always get watched when they go into stores — asked if he could help me. He was a nice old gentleman who said, "What are you planning to make, son?" Son? He called me son, and my dad calls me kid. I didn't want to tell the man, but when he looked at the things I was holding, he grinned and said, "Having trouble with your lunch, aren't you?" I nodded and said, "I'm trying to make a burglar alarm." He said, "That's what I guessed. I've had workmen in here with the same problem." It turned out that I needed a 6-volt lantern battery instead of the battery I had picked out. He gave me a couple of tips, and after I paid for the things, a little slap on the back and said, "Good luck, son." I tore home with all the things I bought. First I made a sign for my door that said, "Keep out, Mom." That means you. Then I went to work fastening one wire from the battery to the switch and from the other side of the switch to the doorbell. Then I fastened a second wire from the battery to the doorbell. It took me a while to get it right. Then I taped the battery in one corner of the lunchbox and the doorbell in another. I stood the switch up at the back of the box and taped that in place too. Here I ran into a problem. I thought I could take the wire clamp meant to hold a thermos bottle inside the lunchbox lid and hook it under the switch. If I reached it in carefully as I closed the box, the clamp wasn't quite long enough. After some thinking and experimenting, I twisted a wire loop onto it. Then I closed the box just enough so I could get my hand inside and push the wire loop over the button on the switch before I took my hand out and closed the box. Then I opened the box. My burglar alarm worked. That bell inside the box went off with a terrible racket that brought Mom to my door. "Lee, what on earth is going on in there?" she shouted above the alarm. I let her in and gave her a demonstration of my burglar alarm. She laughed and said it was a great invention. One thing was bothering me. Would my sandwich muffle the bell? Mom must have been wondering the same thing because she suggested taping a piece of cardboard into the lid that would make a shelf for my sandwich. I did, and that worked too. I can't wait until Monday. That's the end of page 98. Thanks for listening.